because the story of human history is the story of migration. Migration for survival, migration for liberation, and migration for opportunity. As was so aptly put by Peter Sutherland, who was the UN's Special Representative for International Migration and Development, migration is the mother of progress and invention. The will and the courage it requires to leave behind family and country are the same traits that have driven entrepreneurs and innovators throughout history, and our world today is shaped by the industry of immigrants. International migration is typically a response to differentials and disparities, and in the contemporary world, the principal forces that continue to drive migration are the 3 Ds: differences in development, demography, and democracy. And international migration today is of course fueled not only by the demand of industrial states for migrant labor, but also by the demand for skilled workers in the high-value and knowledge-based sectors of their economies. In other words, there is a symbiotic relationship between immigrants and the developed world to make matters of migration and diversity work. There are any number of experts that concur that Canada is uniquely positioned to take advantage of global migration and succeed in the globalized economy. Our long history of welcoming people from around the world and our tolerant nature perfectly place us at the crossroads of global commerce. I don't need to tell anyone in the room how fortunate we all are to share this wonderful country. By luck of birth or by choice, we have all made this our home. And while disparate factors may have brought us here, we have a common purpose in ensuring our continued prosperity and peace well into the future. And that is why I and many others believe that Canada will succeed if it does 3 things right. We must continue to welcome and attract global migrants searching for opportunities. We must make the most of those who have already chosen to make Canada their home. And we need to work with all Canadians to reinforce our strength and share the bounty that a diverse, multicultural, and tolerant society like ours can produce. Canada and its economy have been shaped by newcomers. It's really hard to think of what our country would be like without the likes of Michael Lee Chin, Peter Monk, Dr. Hatem Zagul, founder of Wyland, and the late Thomas Bata, just to name a few. Canada has a long history of welcoming immigrants. Take my own family, for example. My ancestors were United Empire Loyalists. They would ultimately become Canadians just after the American Revolution. Like so many others, the Steiners headed north in 1783, essentially as refugees, traveling first by boat to St. John's Harbor from Gravesend, Long Island, to settle along the Miramichi River in New Brunswick. Our relationship with New Brunswick today is deep and filled with unquestioned pride, but it was a relationship that was originally forced upon us at a time of enormous upheaval and political unrest on this continent, a time when many of the scenes being played out today among the refugee communities and war-torn states of the modern world were being played out, in fact, here in North America. My point is that my family came to Canada that are reasons that are relatively easy to understand, reasons that parallel the motivations of so many who fill the lists of new immigrants who arrive in our country. Almost all, I would argue, come to Canada filled with extraordinary courage and tireless hope in search of something more, in search of safety and opportunity. Safety and opportunity. Eid is a perfect period to celebrate this pair of blessings. Few countries offer them in such abundance. We are what the world wants to be. Nowhere else on earth do 32 million people of every cultural, ethnic, and linguistic makeup live together so well, let alone in such peace and prosperity. But of course, that prosperity could be threatened. Canada is not making the most of those who've chosen to share our flag, nor those who were born under it. I want to be clear what I mean by this potential threat, because many people think it relates only to our current skilled labor shortages, and some think it applies to our need to attract more professionals, such as doctors and lawyers and engineers and scientists, while others focus simply on the glass ceiling that many existing immigrants and visible minorities experience. I would argue that it's all those things. My message is pretty simple. People are the most important asset of both companies and countries. If Canada is to succeed in the global marketplace, we must make the most of our current and future workforce. We must attract the right skills, the best minds, the required resources, while effectively using our existing current human capital. And if we do, we will have an unrivaled advantage on the world stage. We'll reach out to the world, and the world will reach back. If we don't, we'll face an uphill battle just to maintain our quality of living. As I'm sure you all know, across the developed world, the labor force is aging and birth rates in most industrialization nations have hit record lows. Over the next 15 years, 80% of the workforce growth in the developed economies of North America, Europe, and Asia will occur amongst those of us who are 50 years and older. And every month, the world's population of persons aged 65 and older grows by 800,000 individuals every day, every month. And that's according to a report by the U.S. Census Bureau. Here at home, I think we've already figured out that we must rely on immigration to fill the pipeline and help fuel and continue to fuel our economic growth. Our most pressing need is for skilled labor, but we can't lose sight of the bigger picture. We must also attract the best and the brightest and ensure that we find the scientists who will discover, the engineers who will build, the managers who will run existing businesses, and the entrepreneurs who will build new ones, and the people who will contribute so well to our civil society. Immigration is one of the only tools we have to build our nation for the future. We owe it to our citizens and to our children to get it right. We can't just wait for the skills and the people with the skills to come to us. Government, business, and the not-for-profit sector have to look at immigration from a whole new angle. We must look beyond our short-term vision and current practice of just welcoming the next in line and hoping for the best. We can no longer view immigration as a temporary employment agency. We need to start looking at immigration as a blueprint for nation building. And we must find the right balance between social justice and economic need. I strongly believe that if we're going to succeed in a global economy, Canada must find its niches and specialize in those things that we do best, and quickly, because the rest of the world is already doing it. We require a coordinated strategy for dealing with our labor challenges. We must do a better job of inventorying the skills we need now and in the future. We must do a better job of developing the right policies and programs so that we can find the people who have the skills and make sure that they choose Canada as their home. And we must also make sure that we have the programs and the environment where the people that we attract can live up to their potential.